Another method used in domestic spying since 1980 and utilized in individualized gang stalking terrorism is the use of helicopters. The NSA are using helicopters equipped with technology that most people will not believe exists. They're also using heat sensors, which the federal courts have deemed illegal to use in the privacy of our homes, to illegally spy on us. For those individuals that are being gang stalked in conjunction with their many other methods, this equipment is being used in conducting noise campaigns. They're also using the heat sensors to know what part of your home you are in and notifying the controlled informants, which may live above you or next to you, as to where to make the noise. They're also monitoring the illegal phone taps and bugging devices. These helicopters are also illegally tapping into our computers, often interfering with transmissions, attacking it with viruses and trojans, and slowing down the computer with all types of other attacks. There are also relays for HARP, EMP, pulse-directed energy weapons. At night, the NSA helicopters hover about 26,000 to 3,900 feet. In bad weather, they are just above the clouds at 39,000 feet. To the naked eye, they look like stars, or some people have stated they look like planets. However, with a telescope, you can see that they are only between 26,000 and 39,000 feet, and that they are not stars or planets. I have done these videos. I have showed you the NSA. They look like spiders. And they hover in the sky. That's Black Ops. Those are the reptilian assholes. Not only are the NSA helicopters being used in stalking and terrorizing targets, the FBI and local police use their helicopters to take an active role in these activities, for I have witnessed this firsthand. During the morning, and all during the course of the day, the military fly their spy planes over this entire country, including farm and rural towns and communities, breaking down our firewalls and breaking into our computers, including company and corporate computers, which have wireless capabilities. They're also installing spyware through these wireless means. Microsoft Windows XP has 3 backdoors, which Microsoft will not discuss, nor will they state as to why they are there. However, I believe I know why they are there. It is for this very purpose, so that the intelligence agencies can illegally spy on us and interfere and repress us Americans. I believe when the government went after Microsoft for unfair business practices, this was part of their settlement agreement with the Bush administration. The Bush administration, the Bushes are reptilian. They have copper-based DNA, and I have said this before. Lucifer's bloodline. It is my belief that because of the close monitoring of me and the intelligence agencies, being fully aware that I am now going public with this information, they recently came forward about themselves and their illegal abuse of the Patriot Act, with the illegal investigation into many Americans. However, they only told the smallest truth. The rest were lies. The number of persons investigated is in the millions, not thousands, and they have been doing this for many years prior to the Patriot Act. Not only is the FBI conducting such abuses, the intelligence agencies are far-reaching, including the CIA, the NSA, and the Pentagon. The IRS is also involved. Oh, you think? When it comes to the requests for information from their libraries on a person of interest, they've been doing this verbally through the burst bug, with no paper trail. It is my belief that with the request of information through paper protocol have been recently done to cover their tracks. Politicians are also being targeted by illegal investigation and gang stalking tactics. Senator Craig is a prime example. Also, many secretaries, receptionists, and politicians are controlled informants who are spying on them, often blocking people and information such as deleting emails, voicemails, and intercepting letters and getting to the politicians. From getting to the politicians. The Pentagon and the intelligence agencies The Pentagon and the intelligence agencies have been illegally manipulating and interfering with elections in this country by using their controlled informants. All informants are controlled on every level, including if they vote and who they vote for, which is why many do not vote, unless they are told to do so. They have infiltrated all presidential candidate campaigns and have been sabotaging from inside. I watched the first hand of the presidential election in Ohio being sabotaged by these government-controlled informants at the voter registration offices, campaign offices, and at the election polls. As I did collect names, these activities were also done against Gray Davis of California. I was first told in 2001 about what was going to happen to Gray Davis in 2003. Many of the persons who were involved in the proposition of the recall of Gray Davis were government-controlled informants, led by the intelligence agencies. And what this has led me to believe is that these events are well orchestrated and planned years in advance regardless of what the majority of the people want. In the case of Florida presidential election, the feds used their government-controlled informants who happened to be police officers to prevent many black voters from voting. I challenge anyone to investigate these police officers involved, and you'll find that they have what's called a burst bug implant. This is how they're doing it. Three last facts. 1. All payphones throughout this country have been tapped since 1980. Number 2. The Pentagon is operating various conspiracy websites, one being www.911truthout.org, using their controlled informants. Number 3. On Sundays, they run the Truth Movement at St. Mark's Episcopal Church, using their controlled informants. Now you ask yourselves, why? The terrorism is well orchestrated. The campaign against all Americans in this country from within will astound those who investigate further. It is simply insane how the intelligence agencies will stop at nothing to achieve their goal, which is total control. Part of the series of articles published by Citizens Against Human Rights Abuse. Overt harassment. Preconditioning for electronic harassment, which obviously is meant to be observed, may be intended to precondition individuals for eventual long-term electronic harassment. Persons terrified by unexplained overt harassment are not likely to cope with the sudden onset of electronic harassment in any more reasoned fashion. This phased pattern of harassment is apparent on all of the cases now being investigated. The fact that the overt harassment continues in these cases, even after the electronic targeting commences, suggests that the objective is to maintain long-term extreme of stress. Many of the overt harassment tactics discussed below are surfacing in cases which so far have not involved discernible forms of electronic harassment. These are cases involving so-called whistleblowers who, because of their inside knowledge of certain potential newsworthy events, pose particular threats of embarrassment to the government or to government-affiliated employers. We have noticed that electronic harassment is beginning to surface as a form of retaliation against persons who try to assist electronic harassees. Retaliation suggests loss of control. Under these circumstances, we are not entirely confident that whistleblowers will continue to be exempted from this type of harassment in the long term. The individuals now in touch with the project describe their circumstances of being the most, if not all, the following overt forms of harassment. Okay, so they suddenly get this. Sudden, bizarre, rude treatment, isolation, and acts of harassment and vandalism by former friendly neighbors. Okay. Harassing telephone calls, which continue even after the targeted individual obtains new unlisted telephone numbers. Mail interception, theft, and tampering. I've had that. Noise campaigns. Oh, that goes on. While unrelenting, harassing telephone calls might be considered in this context, other tactics are being employed. Blaring horns, whistles, sirens, garbage disposal run concurrently in apartment settings for excessive prolonged periods of time, and amplified transmissions of recorded general racket would have been used on a recurrent basis under circumstances intended to persuade the individual that he or she is under surveillance. In all of these cases, the individual's neighbors apparently pretend to be oblivious and or indifferent to these sudden continuous explosions of noise. Yeah, that's totally true. You talk to someone about this and they go, what? And you know darn good and well they're a gang stalker. Door slamming is also a popular pastime, particularly in the apartment buildings. One individual reported that during a peak period of harassment, the neighbor across the hall began entering and leaving his apartment every 10 minutes, slamming his door loudly on each occasion. This was a daily occurrence, encompassing periods of several hours over a period of several months. It's apparently served to trigger a door slamming chain reaction on the part of the neighbors, both on that floor and on the floors immediately above and below. When our contact politely asked her immediate neighbor to close her door more quietly, she slammed the door in her face. Prior to the commencement of this harassment, the neighbor had apparently been quite friendly and courteous. In another case, the primary door slammer is an employee of Radix System in Rockville, Maryland, a DoD contractor engaged in the super secret research and development of some type of electronic equipment. Several individuals reported recurrent loud, strange noises in their ventilation system during the preliminary stages of their harassment. One individual complained of being recurrently awakened in the middle of the night by a sound of wires being fed into his independent ventilation system. On checking further, he found that the tubular construction had been built into his vent system, which appears to lead to the apartment upstairs. His upstairs neighbor is employed by the Department of Justice. Eric Holder and the crew. A number of individuals report that occupants of upstairs and downstairs apartment appear to follow them from room to room, tapping on the floors or engaging in other activities which appear intended to advertise an ongoing surveillance. The Justice Department employee mentioned above went as far as to offer an unsolicited apology to her downstairs neighbor for an all-night pacing about in her bedroom. She claimed to be an insomniac. The pacing about continued during her recent 36-hour absence from the area, when her contact politely alerted her to the fact that her apartment had apparently been entered during her absence. She told him, in effect, to mind her own business and then immediately complained to the building manager that he was stalking her.